What if the stars we gaze upon tonight were mapped before humanity ever learned to dream? Welcome, traveler of the unknown. Tonight, we step into a darkness older than civilization itself, a darkness carved in stone, whispered through dust, and written across the heavens. You are not just watching history. You are trespassing upon it. It began, as all great heresies do, with a question. In 1894, deep beneath the shifting sands of Egypt, a team of archaeologists uncovered a ceiling, one covered in swirling constellations. Lions, serpents, bulls, and scorpions danced across it, their positions perfectly aligned with the stars above. The artifact would later be called the Dendera Zodiac, a cosmic map so precise that NASA astronomers, centuries later, would confirm its alignments were astronomically correct. Yet this ceiling was carved over 2,000 years ago. How could a civilization without telescopes map the heavens with such accuracy? But Egypt is only the beginning. Thousands of miles to the east, the Sumerians, humanity's first recorded civilization, etched cuneiform tablets that describe the movements of planets with impossible detail. One particular relic, known as the Babylonian star map, seems to chart not just constellations, but celestial trajectories, as though its authors had watched from beyond the sky itself. And then there is Göbekli Tepe in the mountains of modern-day Turkey, a temple complex so ancient it predates Stonehenge by 6,000 years. On its weathered pillars are carved symbols of scorpions, birds, and orbs, constellations frozen in stone. In 2017, researchers discovered that these carvings correspond exactly to the positions of the stars as they appeared around 10,950 BC, the end of the last ice age. The builders of Göbekli Tepe, whoever they were, not only tracked the heavens, they recorded an event, the impact of a comet that may have wiped out much of the planet. But here lies the forbidden question. How could they have known? Each of these relics seems to emerge not from progress, but from memory, as though their creators were remembering the sky, not discovering it. The same constellations, the same orientations, the same mathematical precision appear across continents and millennia, as if someone or something once taught humanity how to read the heavens, and we simply forgot. When scholars attempted to date these maps by the precession of the equinoxes, the slow wobble of Earth's axis, they found something chilling. The alignment of constellations on the Dendera Zodiac does not match the sky of 2000 BC or even 5000 BC. It matches the sky as it would have appeared nearly 12,000 years ago, a time when, according to archaeology, humanity was still hunting and gathering in the wilderness. So who drew the first sky maps? Some say the answer lies in myth, in the gods of the ancient world who descended from the stars. The Sumerians called them the Anunnaki. The Egyptians spoke of Thoth, the god who measured the heavens and wrote the laws of time. The Greeks whispered of Atlas, condemned to hold up the celestial sphere as punishment for revealing forbidden knowledge. Across cultures, the same archetype repeats. Beings who knew the stars before men knew fire. But perhaps it was not gods, but a civilization now erased from history. A people who lived through cataclysm, watching the heavens for signs of their doom. They built temples as calendars, carved warnings in stone, and encoded their astronomical wisdom so that one day, when we had forgotten everything, they might still be remembered through the stars. As we stand beneath the same constellations that guided their eyes, we begin to sense what they saw. Not just light, but order. A cosmic blueprint etched across the void, too symmetrical, too harmonious to be accidental. And in that realization lies a dangerous thought. What if those ancient cartographers were not looking up at the sky, but down upon the earth? Across the deserts of Egypt, the plains of Mesopotamia, and the mountains of Anatolia, a strange pattern emerges. Temples built not for worship, but for alignment. Their stones do not pray, they measure. Every wall, every doorway, every beam of sunlight was meticulously placed to catch the light of a specific star on a specific night thousands of years ago. But how could people who, according to our textbooks, barely mastered bronze tools, command such cosmic precision? Let us begin again in Egypt, land of gods and geometry. The Temple of Dendera, beneath which the famed Zodiac was discovered, was not merely a shrine to Hathor, goddess of the heavens. Its corridors were mathematical. The shafts within its sanctum aligned with the heliacal rising of Sirius, the brightest star in the sky, an event that marked the flooding of the Nile and the beginning of the Egyptian year. To them, the star was not just a light, it was a messenger, a herald from the heavens reminding humankind that time itself flowed from the cosmos. Move eastward, and the sands give way to the fertile crescent. Here, in the ruins of ancient Sumer, we find the temple of Iana in Uruk and the ziggurats of Ur and Eridu. Their stairways spiral upward like cosmic ladders, built to reach the divine realm where the gods were said to dwell among the stars. But if one traces their design carefully, a revelation emerges. Their corners align with the cardinal points of the compass, and their summits once mirrored the constellations above. These were not temples of faith. They were observatories, built with the exactness of a clockmaker. Yet the strangest of them all lies in modern-day Turkey, buried beneath layers of earth and time, Göbekli Tepe. When first uncovered, it defied logic. Massive T-shaped pillars weighing up to 20 tons stood arranged in circles, each carved with symbols of animals, birds, and celestial forms. But why would Stone Age people, supposedly farmers and hunters, erect such a structure? And why, when aligned with the sky, do the carvings match constellations that marked the position of the stars 12,000 years ago? In one relief, a scorpion dominates the center, a clear representation of the constellation Scorpius. Nearby, vultures and orbs form a pattern that corresponds precisely to Sagittarius. When overlaid with star charts from 10,150 BC, the pillars appear to encode a cosmic event, a celestial warning marking a comet impact that altered the Earth's climate and brought an age to its end. Coincidence, the skeptics say. But coincidence does not build temples that align perfectly with solstices and equinoxes across continents. Coincidence does not carve identical constellations on 3 different continents separated by oceans. Coincidence does not preserve the same celestial blueprint across 10,000 years. In the cool silence of Göbekli Tepe's stone circles, one can almost hear it, a hum beneath the surface, like the echo of a forgotten calculation. It is as if these temples were not built by chance, but by design, part of a grand network of observatories spanning the ancient world, tracking the heavens as if humanity's survival depended on it. Perhaps it did, because when the ancients gazed upward, they were not merely stargazing. They were remembering. The same star patterns appear again in later civilizations. The pyramids of Giza aligned with Orion's belt, the Mayan temples of Chichen Itza mirroring the Pleiades, the Angkor Wat complex resonating with Draco. It's as though every great culture inherited a fragment of the same original sky map, a memory of something once known in full and later lost. Some scholars whisper that these alignments may trace not to religious ritual, but to a vanished source, a civilization predating the flood myths, whose knowledge was scattered among survivors. Plato called it Atlantis. Others speak of precession engineers, ancient astronomers who tracked Earth's slow wobble to preserve the cosmic order. And in every temple, every stone, their message is the same. Remember the stars. Remember where you came from. But if these temples are memories, then who exactly are we remembering? Imagine standing beneath the stars 12,000 years ago. No telescopes, no compasses, no mathematics beyond counting the days between harvests. And yet, someone, somewhere, was charting the heavens with the precision of a modern satellite. Who were they? Archaeologists call them unknown builders. Historians call them lost. But in every ancient culture, there are whispers of a different name. The Watchers, those who observed the sky when the world was still dark. Their fingerprints are scattered across continents. On a Babylonian clay tablet, we find the oldest known map of the stars, etched not with symbols of faith, but with measurements. Each star's angular distance marked with eerie accuracy. On the walls of Egyptian tombs, priests of Thoth record planetary motions that would not be formally calculated until the Renaissance. And in the high Andes, the Inca spoke of Viracocha, a bearded god who taught them to read the constellations long before his own disappearance into the sea. The Watchers have no faces, but they left coordinates. When the Dendera Zodiac, the Sumerian star tablets, and the carvings of Göbekli Tepe are digitally overlaid, a strange harmony appears, the same constellations rendered with identical geometric proportions. Scholars expected variance, distortions of scale or orientation. Instead, they found symmetry, as if all three were copied from a single master chart, a celestial template older than any one civilization. But this raises the forbidden question: where was that chart drawn from? Because if the sky carvings at Göbekli Tepe depict constellations as they appeared 12,000 years ago, then their creators either observed the heavens over tens of millennia or viewed them from a position outside the Earth's rotation entirely. In other words, from orbit. Of course, Orthodox archaeology recoils from such an idea. But not all explorers have been so cautious. In 1976, a small group of researchers re-examined the Sumerian Mulapin tablets and noticed something extraordinary. The stars were plotted as if seen from above the ecliptic plane, not from Earth's surface, but from a vantage point high above it. The implication was staggering. Either ancient astronomers possessed a model of the cosmos centuries ahead of their time, or they were preserving knowledge given to them by beings who had literally seen the stars from beyond our world. Ancient alien, Atlantean scientist, divine messenger? The names change, but the implication is the same. Someone drew the sky from an impossible view. It is here that the story turns darker. When 19th century astronomers began cataloging ancient star maps, several reports vanished. The Vatican archives reportedly contain forbidden astronomical codices, texts from early Christian sects describing lights that moved across the firmament like shepherds among sheep. The Church condemned such writings as heretical, claiming they blurred the line between divine and extraterrestrial. Yet fragments survived, hidden in apocryphal texts and monastic vaults. And then there is the Antikythera mechanism, recovered from a shipwreck off the coast of Greece. It is a device of brass gears, dated to over 2,000 years ago, capable of predicting planetary movements and eclipses with mechanical precision. When modern engineers reconstructed it, they realized it mirrored a knowledge base far older, an echo of a science that should not have existed. The impossible cartographers had not only mapped the sky, They had mechanized it. What kind of civilization could build such things? Perhaps they were not a single culture, but a network, an ancient brotherhood devoted to preserving the cosmic order. They could have been the progenitors of the later mystery schools, the Hermetics, the Sabians, the Magi, guardians of knowledge deemed too dangerous for kings and priests. Over centuries, their symbols fragmented into myth. The Eye of Ra, the winged disk, the Serpent of Wisdom, each a fading remnant of that original star map. Everywhere we look, the same idea returns. Humanity did not learn astronomy, it inherited it. Yet the inheritance came with silence, because somewhere along the way, the knowledge was forbidden, hidden, erased. Whoever the cartographers were, they either vanished or were made to vanish. But their work endures, in the stones, in the stars, in the faint mathematical hum that connects every sacred site on Earth. They may be gone, but the heavens they mapped still remember their touch. And perhaps they are not entirely gone at all. There are stars in our sky that should not exist. At least, not in the way ancient maps describe them. Modern astronomers, armed with satellites and spectrographs, can now recreate the night sky as it appeared thousands of years ago. Yet when they compare it to the carved constellations of Egypt, Sumer, and Anatolia, a disquieting anomaly emerges. Some of the stars on those ancient maps no longer exist. How could civilizations, supposedly born from stone and bone, have recorded the positions of celestial bodies that disappeared tens of millennia before human eyes ever looked upward? The first clues came from an artifact dismissed for decades as myth, the Sumerian planisphere, discovered in the ruins of Nineveh. On its cracked surface lies a star chart describing a catastrophic event, a comet impact near 10,000 BC. The same event depicted at Göbekli Tepe. But among its constellations are stars from Aquila and Cygnus that today lie in slightly different positions. Only computer simulations of Earth's precession over 30,000 years explain the match. In other words, the tablet reflects a sky far older than the civilization that etched it. Then, in Egypt, the Dendera Zodiac presents the same impossible alignment. It depicts the star Thuban in the constellation Draco as the celestial North Pole, a position it only held around 3000 BC. But even older references show Thuban still in place centuries after the pole had drifted. To the Egyptian priests, the stars did not move. They returned. It was as if their knowledge came from observers who had seen multiple precessional cycles, an astronomical record spanning not centuries, but tens of thousands of years. This should be impossible, unless the knowledge was not gathered, but preserved. Hidden deep within the Giza Plateau, early explorers recorded what they called star shafts, narrow tunnels inside the Great Pyramid that aligned precisely with Orion's belt and Sirius. Yet those alignments match not the sky of Egypt's Old Kingdom, but the heavens as they appeared around 10,500 BC, the same epoch encoded at Göbekli Tepe. Were these monuments memorials or messages left by survivors of a world erased? As more evidence surfaced, the pattern grew stranger still. The Dogon tribe of Mali, isolated from modern science until the 20th century, possessed knowledge of Sirius B, a white dwarf companion to Sirius, invisible to the naked eye. They knew its orbital period, 50 years. Exactly correct. They said the Nomo, amphibious beings from the sky, had taught their ancestors about the two sons of Sirius in a time before memory. Skeptics called it coincidence, but coincidence does not explain why their temples aligned perfectly with the heliacal rising of Sirius every half-century. Even more perplexing are the Nazca lines in Peru. Massive geoglyphs only visible from the air, many aligned not to earthly geography, but to star positions frozen thousands of years ago. The monkey corresponds to Ursa Major, the hummingbird to Orion, and if one were to project the Nazca Plateau into a three-dimensional model of the night sky circa 12,000 BC, the figures form a mirror image of the constellations as seen from above Earth's southern hemisphere. From above. Perhaps these are not maps of the stars, but coordinates of observation, markers left by a civilization who once watched the heavens from beyond them. But there is one more clue, buried in mathematics itself. The constant ratios found in ancient structures, the Great Pyramid, Stonehenge, Teotihuacan, all encode the same numbers: 432, 864, 2160. These are not random. They are astronomical cycles, the precession of the equinoxes, the diameter of the sun, the rhythm of the cosmos. It is as if the builders were not constructing monuments, but equations, formulae that bound heaven and earth together. So what does it mean when humanity rediscovers what the ancients already knew? Perhaps the forbidden sky maps were never meant to predict stars, but to remind us of where we truly come from, a message encrypted in the cosmos itself. A whisper across eons saying, "We were here when the world began, and when it ends, we will watch again." Beneath every myth lies a memory, and beneath every memory, an echo. For centuries, philosophers and priests have spoken of a world that came before, a lost epoch drowned beneath the sea. Its name changes with the tongues that utter it. The Mayans called it Xibalba, the Hindus Dwarka, the Greeks Atlantis. But its essence remains. A civilization erased not by time, but by cataclysm. When Plato wrote of Atlantis in Timaeus and Critias, he claimed the story was not his invention, but the inheritance of Egyptian priests. They told of an advanced race that knew the cycles of the heavens and measured the motions of the stars with instruments of light. Atlantis, they said, fell in a single day and night of fire and flood, its knowledge scattered to the corners of the earth. But what if that wasn't myth? What if the ancient star maps are their fingerprints, Atlantean relics encoded in stone? Let us follow the trail of survivors. After the flood, the Sumerians spoke of Oans, a luminous being who rose from the sea to teach humanity writing, astronomy, and architecture. The Egyptians told of Thoth, who measured the heavens and rebuilt the world after the waters receded. The Andeans spoke of Viracocha, the white-bearded sage who emerged after the deluge to re-civilize humankind. They all appeared suddenly, fully formed, bearing the same knowledge of stars and cycles, as though carrying a torch from a drowned world. These myths echo one another too closely to dismiss. And when we plot their origins on a global map, they form a network, a migration path stretching from the Indian Ocean to the Mediterranean, then to South America. The stars followed them, carved into every temple they built. Archaeologists have long puzzled over why so many ancient monuments share the same astronomical obsession. The pyramids of Egypt and Mesoamerica align to Orion, the stone circles of Britain calibrated to solstices, the Angkor Wat temples in Cambodia mirroring Draco's constellation. But what if these were not coincidences at all? What if they were memory architecture? Atlantean survivors encoding fragments of their lost sky map across the Earth. The mathematician Charles Hapgood once proposed the theory of Earth crust displacement, suggesting that the planet's outer shell shifted around 12,000 years ago, exactly when the last ice age ended. The stars would have appeared to move. The poles would have shifted. and civilizations that once stood near the tropics would have been buried beneath ice. The date, 10th of 500 BC, the same epoch encoded in the Dendera Zodiac, the Sumerian tablets, and Göbekli Tepe. Coincidence or chronology? If Atlantis existed, it was not a single city. It was a world system, a civilization bound by the sky. Their greatest monuments were not temples, but markers of memory, ensuring that when the earth turned once more, someone would rediscover the pattern, and perhaps that time is now. In 2013, satellite scans of the ocean floor revealed geometric formations beneath the waters near Cuba, rectilinear blocks, roads, and pyramidal shapes stretching for miles. Geologists remain cautious, but sonar echoes do not lie. Something massive sleeps beneath the silt. And so, the forbidden sky maps may not simply show where the stars once were. They may show where the builders went. What if these charts are not celestial, but navigational? A stellar coordinate system marking the trajectory of their journey, back to the heavens from which they came? Or perhaps they never left at all. Perhaps they are watching, waiting for the next alignment, when the stars return to their original positions and the cycle begins anew. In ancient Egyptian myth, this is called the Zep Tepi, the first time, when the gods walked among men. And when the stars realign, the first time returns. The echo of Atlantis is not silence. It is a countdown. And somewhere, between the stars and the deep, the lost architects are listening. The stars are patient. They do not age as we do. They burn, collapse, and are born again in cycles that make civilizations look like flickering candles in a storm. And yet, through all of humanity's forgetting, the heavens have kept their silent vigil, remembering what we lost. When astronomers point their telescopes to the night sky, they are not looking outward. They are looking backward into deep time. Every point of light above you is a message from the past, arriving after millennia of travel through the dark. And among those messages lies a truth so ancient, so impossible, that even science hesitates to speak it aloud. Because the old sky maps, those etched in stone, sealed in temples, whispered in myths, have proven correct. In 2001, astrophysicists reconstructed the precessional motion of Earth's axis over the last 30,000 years and compared it to ancient star data. The results were staggering. The Dendera Zodiac, the Göbekli Tepe carvings, and the Sumerian tablets all align with astronomical configurations that modern software confirms to within fractions of a degree. Whoever first mapped those stars knew the exact wobble of the planet, the tilt of its axis, and the clockwork motion of the cosmos itself. That is knowledge far beyond the capacity of early humanity. Unless it was not early humanity at all. Some scholars, unwilling to invoke myth, suggest a simpler explanation, that memory itself is older than we think, that humanity has risen and fallen many times, each age rediscovering fragments of the last, a cyclical amnesia where every golden civilization becomes its own Atlantis. The survivors pass on what little they remember: how to farm, how to build, how to follow the stars, and slowly the echo fades into legend. But others whisper something far more disturbing, that the watchers never left. In ancient Sumerian and Egyptian texts, there are cryptic references to the return of the shining ones, those who will descend when the sky opens and the stars take their original places. Astronomers today call that moment the precessional reset, a celestial alignment that occurs roughly every 26,000 years. And the next reset? It approaches within our own millennium, Every monument, every temple, every forbidden chart points toward one convergence, a moment when the heavens will look once again as they did in 10,500 BC. The epoch carved into stone, sung in myth, and measured in silence. Why were our ancestors so obsessed with preserving that pattern? What did they fear or expect to return? Maybe the answer lies not in faith or science, but in memory, because the stars do not forget. And if those maps are more than decoration, if they are signals, coordinates, invitations, then perhaps the ancient cartographers were not warning us, but guiding us back to the place we came from. As the camera of history pans upward, imagine it, the night sky as seen by the first dreamers, the same constellations, the same distances, the same whisper of eternity. The ancients looked up and saw home, and we, with all our machines and telescopes, are only just beginning to remember what they already knew, that we were never alone in the cosmos. We were always part of it. So tonight, when you step outside, lift your eyes to the stars. Let the silence speak. Because somewhere, written in light older than humanity, the heavens are still telling the story. The forbidden sky maps were not about where the stars are, but about where we belong. And perhaps, just perhaps, the sky remembers you.